When I realized that I was a vicious female partner, I was overlording my nominal prince brother. Imperial sister, no. His Highness the gentle and upright prince lay weakly on the couch, his hands tied with a chain, so pitiful. But even if he was so humiliated by his imperial sister, he was still gentle and calm, but there was a little helplessness in his eyes when he looked at me. I suddenly became excited and was about to pounce on it. At this moment, my eyes suddenly darkened, and my consciousness fell into nothingness in an instant, and the beast collapsed halfway through. In a daze, I saw a book called Beautiful Men in Time Travel Are All Skirt Ministers. In the script, I am a vicious female supporting actress, madly obsessed with her imperial brother Shinshu. To get him, I drugged, threatened, imprisoned, and did everything I could. In the end, the matter was exposed, my reputation was ruined, and I was criticized by the world, and the prince's biological mother, that is, the queen, directly sent me back to the west with a foot of white silk. And Shinshu is the first male protagonist in this polyamorous love article. He will only belong to the heroine Feng Qingqing, who has crossed over, and any other woman who covets him will not end well. I am the most iron of them. At most, other female supporting actors secretly fall in love with them or express their feelings after being rejected, and then they stop entangled. Only I, despite Shinshu's countless refusals, still remained undead. I didn't believe it at first, but when I thought of the recent weirdness of Feng Qingqing, the concubine of the Feng family, I had to believe it. That Feng Qingqing's temperament has changed drastically since he fell into the water a month ago, shouting every day that everyone is equal, men and women are equal, and when he sees his father, he straightens his back and refuses to kneel. Regardless of the defense of men and women, I rode a horse with Li Jia Erlang today, and tomorrow I was alone in a room with the Murong family's heir and the lonely men and women. Although the Qisong kingdom is open in folk customs, it does not have too many rules and regulations for women compared to the other two countries, but it has not been open to this extent. Feng Qingqing's behavior is too deviant. But it just so happened that she was such a deviant woman, who was chased by almost all the children of the family in Xingjing. Everything was right, and I couldn't help but believe it. My consciousness regained consciousness, and as soon as I raised my eyes, I met Shinshu's worried gaze. What happened just now? But what's uncomfortable? This is my imperial brother, who was almost forced by me and still cared about me as always. It is really beautiful and gentle as water. As expected of my favorite man. I was just about to raise my chin proudly, but suddenly my fate flashed in front of me that I was hanged by a foot of white silk. The face is pale, the tongue sticks out long, ugly and terrifying. Horror, terrifying. I shivered. No, I can't rob a man with the heroine. I'm sorry, brother emperor. I rolled over and untied the chains on Shinshu's hand. Blame me for being angry for a moment. The ghost is obsessed with his mind, and he has done such a disrespectful thing to you. Please forgive the emperor, brother. I was about to kneel, but Shinshu took my hand to stop me and smiled gently. When did the emperor blame you? After saying that, he suddenly paused, his eyes drooped slightly, his slender eyelashes swept over his eyelids. He was silent for a long time, and continued to speak, but Shinshu's voice was slightly hoarse. Although you and I are not brothers and sisters, the world does not know that in the eyes of the world, we are blood relatives, and we cannot commit incest. I nodded frantically like a chicken pecking at rice, promising, don't worry, brother, I will never do this again in the future. Shinshu looked at me and hesitated, and after a while, he sighed silently. Brother emperor, believe in you. But the expression on your face doesn't look like you believe in me at all. But I can't blame Shinshu. After all, this is not the first time I've done this. Every time I promised that it would never be like this in the future, and the next time, I should be imprisoned or imprisoned, and whether I should be drugged or drugged. If I were him, he wouldn't believe it. I can only prove my sincerity with actions. Leaving the East Palace and walking slowly on the corridor, I threw the chain in my hand, and the golden chain glowed in the sun. There is one thing to say, this chain is really good, beautiful and smooth texture. It's actually good to be a piece of jewelry. At this time, I didn't expect that in the near future, this gold chain would be put on my feet by Shinshu and become an excellent tool to imprison me. 3 After that, I tried my best to avoid Shinshu, and I used to run to the East Palace 800 times a day, but now I don't go once, and my personal palace maid Song Shui was stunned. In the begonia hall, Song Shui asked curiously while wearing my hair, "Did the princess and His Highness the Crown Prince quarrel?" "No, I have a relationship with the Emperor's brothers and sisters, how can we quarrel?" "That is the princess." Song Shui was silent for a moment, and her tone suddenly became excited. "Are you brewing some bigger and more meticulous plan? The kind that can take down His Highness the Crown Prince in one fell swoop?" Because of my past feats, Song Shui didn't believe that I would give up Shinshu at all. Shinshu wouldn't believe it, Song Shui wouldn't believe it, probably no one would believe it except myself. Alas. Sad. 40,000. What I never expected was that I didn't go to Shinshu, but he came to me in turn. At that time, he was sitting upright at the table in my hall, and from my point of view, I could see his cold and pure profile, with a high nose bridge, long eyelashes, and half of the outline as smooth and deep as a stroke, like the heaviest ink color in ink painting. The slender hand held a pen and wrote something on the rice paper. I suddenly remembered the day I forcibly kissed Shinshu for the first time. It was a sunny afternoon, and after lunch in the East Palace, Shinshu pulled me to practice calligraphy. "Don't look at me, look at the words." Shinshu tapped my forehead with his fingers and taught me a lesson with a straight face. Oh. Maybe I'm just born rebellious, and the more I don't let me see it, the more I want to see it. I stared at Shinshu even more bluntly, which can be said to be staring intently. Shinshu was helpless, he said a few words, but I couldn't hear clearly. The two eyes stared straight at the moderately thick lips, one by one. 2 For Shinshu was born very well, his skin color was as white as snow, and his lips were particularly red, like dyeing rouge, which made people's hearts itch. I swallowed unconsciously, and thoughts of offending him flooded up. But the person in front of me is His Highness the most noble prince of Chisung Kingdom, and he is my nominal imperial brother, and I can't offend him. I desperately restrained the thoughts in my head and silently recited the mantra. However, the more I restrained, the stronger the thought of offending Shinshu, and after a few breaths, I still couldn't hold back, and hooked Shinshu's neck with lightning speed and kissed it. The moment I covered his lips, I let out a sigh of satisfaction in my heart. It feels much better than I imagined, like kissing a snowflake that is about to melt, and like a fruity pastry, cool and sweet. And Shinshu seemed to be shocked by my sudden offensive behavior, and was stunned for a long time before remembering to push me away. I was probably really scared by me, and I pushed it 2 or 3 times before pushing it away. Shinshu opened his mouth slightly and looked at me speechless for a long time. I licked my lips and threw myself into his arms again, wanting to continue to belittle him. However, he was on guard this time. Shinshu pressed 2 fingers against my mouth, his earlobes were crimson, and his eyes were slightly drooping, as if he was ashamed and annoyed. "Brother Huang, don't be so stingy, kiss me again." I put my arms around his waist, rubbed my head against his chest, and begged coquettishly. "Shen Zhaojuan." He rarely called my full name in an extremely serious tone. I looked up at him disapprovingly, blinking. "I am your brother. It's not yours. That's not allowed." Shinshu's attitude is resolute, the old saying has clouds. He trained me for half an hour before he let me go. But I went in and out of my left ear and didn't take it seriously. Shinshu has always been a different existence to me. My biological mother was a concubine in the family, and she was just a talented person when she entered the palace, not favored, and went early, and she died of illness when I was 8 years old. At a young age, I was in the deep palace, and without my mother's protection, my life was miserable. Later, Shinshu saw that I was pitiful and asked me to go to the Eastern Palace, so I could live a good life. He treats me very well, and he is also very nice. Gentle, noble, elegant, holy, intelligent. In my opinion, it is not too much for all the good words in the world to be placed on him. Later, by accident, I found out that I was not the emperor's biological daughter. At that time, I was at a loss, and the first time, I subconsciously told Shinshu, who was silent for a while after hearing this, asking me not to tell the third person. I will definitely die if someone finds out, but he will help me keep this secret. I was so moved that I secretly vowed to be good to Shinshu for the rest of my life. As I grew older, I admired him more and more, and at the same time, a desire called possession became stronger. I always thought it was just my sister's admiration for her brother, but now I suddenly realized that it wasn't at all. My love for Shinshu is the love between men and women. I like him, I want to get him. And Shinshu's pampering of me over the years has made me develop a character that I want to get it immediately. After that forced kiss, I apologized and reformed on the surface, but in fact I never lost the thought of trying to pounce on him. 5. The opportunity that made me decide to drug Shinshu was an accident. That day, the sun was shining, the weather was sultry, and the cicadas on the trees were screaming like crazy, and I wanted to give him a plate of pastries. Brother Emperor. When I pushed the door in, I saw a man with a thick white back, black hair as long as a waterfall pouring down the edge of the bucket, and dripping water droplets flowing on his back with smooth lines. It is like an ice lotus blooming in the water, stunningly holy and beautiful. Shinshu is taking a bath, I should avoid it immediately. Of course, I think so too. As a sister, how can I watch the Emperor's brother bathe? I'm ready to turn around, damn it. I couldn't move my feet. I want to close my eyes, damn it. My eyes didn't listen. Damn it. Who? Shinshu sensed someone behind him, turned slightly sideways, and made a cold sound. In the mist of water, the man's superior figure was hazy, looming, and extremely tempting. I was fascinated for a while, and when I came back to my senses, Shinshu's figure was no longer in the bathtub. He hastily put on a robe and stood in front of me, looking down at me and frowned. You've seemed to be ashamed to speak, and Shinshu didn't say the second half of the sentence for a long time. In the end, it only turned into a light sigh. Shinshu, avoid such a thing next time. Forget it. If it's me, the Emperor brother won't care about you, but if it's a man next to you, it won't necessarily be, and your reputation will be damaged. Do you remember? Well, remember. I coped with it randomly, still staring blankly at him with my eyes. To be precise, looking at his chest. Because it was a temporary bath, Shinshu only put on a piece of clothing, his belt was loosely tied, a large piece of cold white chest was exposed, and the remaining water droplets slowly slid down his slender neck and disappeared into his collar. I have an inexplicably dry mouth. I had a dream that night. In the dream, I sat on Shinshu's lap, he clasped my waist tightly, his crimson lips pressed against my auricle, and he slowly and softly recited, "The jade furnace ice mat is brocade, and the pink and fragrant sweat pillow are flowing from the mountain." The sound of the wheels outside the curtain made me frown and smile in surprise. Brother Emperor. I was shocked. How could Shinshu, who has always been a gentleman, say such a beautiful poem? Shinshu only looked at me with a smile, and after a while, his fingers covered my lips and pressed gently. "Zhaojuan, I also like you." My heart was pounding, and I wanted to say something, but he suddenly kissed me. Then I was picked up, and the curtains fell in a spiral, and a room of spring bloomed. After waking up from the dream, I lay on the bed, staring blankly at the top of my head, and I couldn't come back to my senses for a long time. Shinshu. This name is like a small hook, hooking my heart one by one, making my heart itch and desire. Want him. Want him. Want him. In 16 years of life, I have never had such a strong desire to get something or something. Since I was a child, I didn't have much interest in everything, even if I wanted a few. I basically thought that was the case when I got it, and I put it on hold for a while. Only Shinshu makes me wake up every night, thinking about it, tossing and turning. So, I decided to drug him. I asked Songshue to find Chun Crimson. Spring scarlet fragrance, to put it bluntly, is spring. Why? When Songshue handed me the medicine, she hesitated to speak. "Princess, this is not good. What if His Highness the Crown Prince gets angry afterwards?" I hooked my lips and smiled. If you are angry, you will be angry anyway. The emperor will spoil me so much, he will never kill me. And even if I kill it, I admit it, as the so-called peony flower dies, and it is romantic to be a ghost. I put the spring scarlet incense into the tea that Shinshu often drank and sent it to Shinshu. Brother Emperor, you have worked hard. Shinshu was very pleased, put down the fold in his hand and took the teacup. I am sensible. I smiled and watched him put the teacup to his lips, feeling very excited. Suddenly, he held the cup with his hand. I got nervous. Did he find out? It shouldn't be, the spring scarlet fragrance is colorless and tasteless, he can't find it. Just when I doubted my life, Shinshu drank all the tea. It's done. I couldn't hold back my smile anymore, and I couldn't suppress the curvature of the corners of my mouth. Half a quarter of an hour later, Shinshu fell in front of the table with a bang. I hugged his thin waist from behind, rubbed my head and rubbed it, and my whole body was wrapped in the cold plum fragrance on Shinshu's body. Brother Emperor. I like you so much, Brother Huang. People, beds, small dark rooms, everything is available. However, the embarrassing thing is that I don't know much about bedding. I took off my clothes, but I didn't know what to do next. I want to cry without tears. I can only secretly find a fire avoidance map, learn and sell it now. What's even more embarrassing is that I just understood a general idea, and Shinshu woke up. Zhao Juan, you are. Shinshu looked at the chains on his body blankly, and then looked at me. So far, I have done everything. I straightened my back and pretended to be calm. Obviously, I am imprisoning you. Shinshu was even more confused. Why are you imprisoning me? Of course I am greedy for your beauty. I walked a few steps to the edge of the bed, frivolously hooked Shinshu's chin, and looked like a female hooligan. Brother Huang's appearance is the best in Xinjiang, and his figure is also first class. How many girls have secretly promised Brother Huang's heart? What is there to be surprised about if I like Brother Huang? Shinshu suddenly frowned. You and I are brother and sister. No, I covered his lips impatiently. Sibling. 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 It's not biological, so what's there to worry about? I didn't want to hear him talk nonsense, but then I gradually got lost in this kiss. And I can obviously feel that Shinshu is also a little emotional. A little blurred appeared in his narrow eyes, and there was still lust in the depths of his pupils that could not be hidden. Shinshu also fell into this kiss. Shinshu happened to be in his weak age this year, and a man of this age should have married and had children long ago, not to mention that he was still the current prince. But the strange thing is that there is no woman around him. Not only is there no concubine, but there is not even a concubine. A pure heart and few desires are not like a mortal. There are even rumors that the prince has a good relationship with Longyang, or that he has a hidden disease. Such a man who is as bright as the bright moon in the sky will also give birth to the lust of an ordinary man, and all this is because of me. I can't help but feel a little proud to recognize this. But at this moment, Shinshu pushed me away. The effect of the medicine had passed, and he regained his strength and easily broke free from the chains. Why? I sat at the end of the bed, very aggrieved. Obviously you like it too. Shinshu lowered his eyes while getting dressed. You and I are brothers and sisters, and we must not do things that cause trouble in the palace. I won't tell you about today, but there must be no next time. It's just nominal. I didn't give up and threw myself on him, and hugged him tightly. And if you don't say it, I won't say it, no one will know. Brother Emperor, I really like you so much, can you let me satisfy my greed? I was answered by a silence. Shinshu broke my fingers one by one, his movements were very gentle but full of ruthlessness. From now on, you will be grounded for half a month, so you should reflect on yourself. I grinded my back teeth, and glared at him hatefully. Reflection? Okay, I'll let you know how I reflected. Half a month later, I reflected on a new chain, based on the original gold chain, and added the unique fine iron of Chisang Kingdom to refine, which was good-looking and strong, ensuring that Shinshu could not break free. This time the chains were in place, but Shinshu was on guard and refused to touch the food I gave him, no matter how much he coaxed or deceived. So, I could only watch the flower like emperor brother dangling in front of me, but I couldn't eat it, and I felt uncomfortable in my heart. Under the lust of lust, I have come up with many insidious methods. As a result, Shinshu and I started a period of he ran away, I chased, and he couldn't fly. It wasn't until not long ago that I learned that I was a vicious female supporting actress that I stopped urgently. Hey, to this day, when I think of Shinshu's skin that can be called an immortal, I still crave it from time to time. In fact, I have successfully imprisoned Shinshu many times in the past, but every time he was able to escape at the last moment. Maybe this is the fate of being a female supporting actor, and I can't get a male protagonist anyway. Damn it. Zhao Juan? The gentle male voice pulled my thoughts back. Shinshu was already standing in front of me at some point, staring at me. My eyes couldn't help but fall on his lips. It seemed that he had just eaten something, and Shinshu's lips glowed with a layer of water, like a ripe red fruit, exuding an attractive fragrance. I miss my relatives. But I took a deep breath, tried to suppress the impulse, and asked him, "What is the emperor looking for me? Can't I come to you if I'm fine?" Shinshuqing's voice actually had a hint of loneliness. A strange feeling suddenly surged in my heart. Shouldn't Shinshu be hiding from me? He is not worried that I will use means to force him. Thinking so in my heart, I asked so too. Shinshu was stunned for a moment after hearing this, and then laughed again. The light from outside the window came in, highlighting into a halo, hazy his deep eyebrows and eyes. "No matter what, you are my sister, and nothing will affect our friendship." He paused and continued, "So you don't have to hide from me everywhere." I didn't know how to answer, so I could only nod, Anyway, counting the time, the heroine Feng Qingcheng is about to meet Shinshu. When the time comes, the two of them look at each other. I don't have to hide directly, and he can't see any women other than the heroine in his eyes. Shinshu is the most important person in my life. If he is with Feng Qingcheng, he will be happy, then I can let go and bless. Every 5 years, hunting conventions are held in rotational locations, in the name of enhancing the bonds between nations. This time it happened to be held in Qisong, and the heroine Feng Qingcheng would shine at the dust-washing banquet of this conference. Two of the male protagonists, Shinshu and Ruin's Prince Uxer, noticed her at the same time. Then he successfully opened the drama of 4 men fighting for 1 woman. Every male protagonist can't wait to kill the other 3, so that he can monopolize Feng Qingcheng. But Feng Qingcheng loved everyone and was reluctant to hurt each other, so in the end, after some pulling, the 4 men reached a consensus and decided to share their beloved woman. But Shinshu is the main palace in terms of title. Feng Qingcheng married Shinshu, is the queen of Qisong, and the other 3 men are underground lovers. The 3 male protagonists also felt unfair. They had quarreled, but it was useless. Who made Feng Qingcheng's favorite was Shinshu. I felt astringent in my heart, and subconsciously looked at Shinshu in front of me on the right. The envoys of the 3 kingdoms have all arrived yesterday, and a dust banquet has been arranged today. In recent years, the emperor began to delegate power to Shinshu, so Shinshu began to prepare from the dust-washing banquet to tomorrow's hunt. He sat upright in the center, wearing a moon-white silver silk dark patterned flower robe. His figure was as tall as a cypress, his jade crown was tied up, and there was a faint smile between his eyebrows and eyes. It is worthy of being the first male protagonist T, and this posture is worthy of being called the first disaster in Shengjing in the book. Sensing my gaze, Shinshu also looked at me, and the smile on his lips was still as gentle as a breeze. Look. Can I blame it for this? A male goblin swaying and seducing in front of him every day, who can control this? I'm just making a mistake that every woman in the world makes. I forced myself to look away. Looking at it again, I am afraid that the heart that has finally been sealed will become restless again. I quickly took a sip of wine. Ahem, cough. Drinking too hastily to choke on himself, Shinshu over there frowned slightly, with obvious reprimand in his eyes. He whispered a few words to the little eunuch next to him, and the little eunuch nodded, walked quickly to my side, took my wine with his hands and feet, and quickly replaced it with fruit wine that did not burn his throat and was not easy to get drunk. I shrugged my shoulders, didn't care, and began to look at the people around me. The heroine Feng Qingqing did not sit with the Feng family, and there were two men sitting beside her like protectors. The young man on the left looked unruly, his whole body was frivolous, and he faintly exuded a little evil spirit. One of the male protagonists, the young General Zhou Xing'an. The young man on the right lazily played with the wine glass, and everyone he saw was smiling. This is also one of the male protagonists, the son of the richest man in the mainland, the Jin dynasty. The two have very different styles, and neither of them is convinced of anyone, only the eyes of Feng Qingqing are the same admiration. Feng Qingqing should have accepted two male protagonists at present. The remaining two will also look at her differently after she shines today. A quarter of an hour later, the legitimate daughter of the Feng family, who was a vicious female partner like me, began to cause trouble. She said that Feng Qingqing is proficient in all kinds of piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, and poetry and songs are at her fingertips. In short, she wants to force Feng Qingqing to show her talents. But many people know that Feng Qingqing has been raised like a maid since she was a child, and she doesn't even know a few words. How can she understand piano, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry and songs? Letting her go up is to make her make a fool of herself. I shook my head and let out a few chirps in my heart. This is the heroine, how could she make a fool of herself? Sure enough, Feng Qingqing made several wonderful poems in a row, which attracted many people's amazement and sideways. The clouds want to wear clothes and flowers to look like, and the spring breeze blows the threshold and dew. Suddenly, like a spring breeze overnight, thousands of trees and pear blossoms bloom. The hall is full of flowers and drunken 3,000 guests, and a sword is frosty and cold 14 states. Feng Qingqing became a poem in 3 steps, and a red dress amazed the 4 people. Wonderful, wonderful, Miss Feng Er's poem is really unmatched. Who said that Miss Feng Er is talentless and immoral? This is clearly a genius. Strange woman. In the face of everyone's praise, Feng Qingqing only snorted disdainfully, arrogant and arrogant. Zhou Xing'an and Jin Chao's eyes looked at her even hotter. The gentle Prince Uxel also looked at Feng Qingqing with great interest. I quickly observed Xinshu's reaction. The script reads, "The girl in red is beautiful, but she didn't expect her talent to be even more amazing." Xinshu looked at her, and gradually lost his mind. He clearly felt that his heart lake, which had been calm for 20 years, had been disturbed by the girl in front of him. But Xinshu's face was calm from beginning to end, and there was no fluctuation in his eyes. Where is the appearance of losing consciousness? Is he hiding too deeply, or is it because of something else? But I have to admit that no matter what the reason, I am quite happy. I know you're happy, but don't be happy yet. An unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded in my ears, but I looked left and right and couldn't find the source of the sound. I've seen the ghost. The voice then sounded, "I'm not a ghost, I'm Correction System 101, mainly responsible for correcting the world's plot." After some exchange, I probably understood, so the soul in Feng Qingqing's body is a person from another world, and the poems she just wrote are actually the original works of others. System 101 was silent for a moment and said, "It's a bit immoral, but it's actually quite common in the travel text." Can a plagiarist also be a heroine? I still can't accept such a person becoming Xinshu's wife. She can be unsmart, not good-looking, have some harmless minor shortcomings, and can even be polyandry. Anyway, there are many men with 3 wives and 4 concubines in this era, so what is wrong with women having 3 husbands and 4 servants? But you can't steal other people's things so despicably. For me, my emperor brother is the best person in the world, and Feng Qingqing is not worthy of him. 7. The second day of the hunting meeting was held as scheduled, and the color head was a peerless sword, called the Feihong sword, which is said to be the lost sword of the first master in the rivers and lakes. Uxel, Zhou Xing'an, and Jin Chao all came into battle. Xinshu, as the Prince of Qisong, also personally went down and came out on top among many strong opponents. On the high platform, the man dressed in royal blue pulled out the Feihong sword, and simply played a few moves, bringing bursts of wind sound, and the ink hair behind him danced with the wind. The audience erupted in cheers. The hall is full of drunken 3,000 guests, a sword frost and cold 14 states, this is talking about him. Feng Qingqing stared at Shensu directly, and the desire to conquer in his eyes was very obvious. My eyes were also focused on Shensu, no way, he was too eye-catching, and people had to look at him. Across the sea of people, Shensu suddenly looked sideways at me, and under the scorching sun, he tucked the corners of his lips and smiled slightly at me. My heart slammed a beat. I can't stand it. I can't stand it at all. I covered my restless chest and fled. That night, I dreamed of Shensu again, and this dream was even more fragrant than the last time. It's just that this time, I'm the one who is bound by chains. Shensu sat on the edge of the bed, his long hair disheveled, his expression was loose, and his slender fingers gently lifted it, and my belt fell to the ground. Then he hooked his lips slightly, and his tone was ambiguous and frivolous. The emperor's sister is really beautiful, and she has been in love with her for a long time. As soon as the words fell, he suddenly covered up, and a stormy kiss fell, with a madness that could not be refused. My hand was also held down by him, and my fingers were clasped in little by little until my fingers were interlocked. I can't say a complete word. As soon as the picture turned, Shensu came out from behind the screen, still with undried water droplets on his body. Zhao Juan. He kissed my forehead and called my name gently. Don't think about leaving me anymore. Brother Emperor doesn't want to use those methods against you, you are obedient, okay? The dream came to an abrupt end at this moment. I couldn't sleep either, and I sat absent-mindedly holding the quilt until dawn. Until the morning light was faint, Song Shui came in with face wash and specially mentioned, there is news from the queen that she is going to choose a concubine for the prince. I was stunned for a moment, choose a concubine. Yes, I heard that the eldest daughter of the Li family and the second daughter of the Murong family are on the list of candidates. Princess. Before Song Shui finished speaking, I quickly jumped out of bed, put on my shoes and socks and ran to the East Palace. As soon as I entered the gate, a young man in plain clothes walked towards me. Sword eyebrows and starry eyes, a high nose bridge, and a very gorgeous appearance, which is the complete opposite of the plain clothes on his body. The grass people have seen the 8th princess. He saluted me in a polite manner. Excuse me. I hurried to see Shensu, but I didn't pay much attention to this person. At this moment, just after the rabbit hour, Shensu was practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard, and when he saw me coming, he put away the sword and looked at me with a smile. It seems that he smiles every time he sees me. Why did you get up so early today? Oh yes, I usually have to sleep 3 poles a day, but getting up at the hour of the rabbit today is really unprecedented. I coughed lightly, looked at him seriously and asked, is the emperor going to marry a wife? When Shensu heard this, a dark light flashed almost imperceptibly in his eyes, and after a while, he said gently, the Queen Mother mentioned this to me a few days ago. I asked, does the emperor have a favorite candidate? Yes, yes. Shensu said slowly. Who? Is the second lady of the Feng family Feng Qingcheng? No. It's not good. I breathed a sigh of relief and smiled again. Whose girl made the emperor's brother move his mortal heart? Shensu just looked at me and didn't speak. Don't. Thinking of that possibility, I felt sad. Don't worry, brother, I won't do anything to that girl. In the past, I mistakenly regarded my admiration for my brother as the love between men and women, but now that I understand it, I will correct my position, and will not embarrass my brother and his future sister-in-law. Shensu raised his eyes in surprise. I know that the emperor's brother may not believe it, so I have asked my father to choose a son-in-law for me in 3 days. The last syllable fell to the ground, and there was sudden silence around. The breeze blew, and the broken hair in front of Shensu's forehead was dragged by the wind, and a pair of upturned Danfeng eyes surged with emotions that I couldn't understand. After a while he said in a hoarse voice, are you serious? I nodded, I'm almost 17, and it's time to choose a son-in-law. I have always done what I said. This afternoon a batch of portraits of noble women of the noble family were sent to the East Palace, and the next day my Haitong Hall sent a number of portraits of the lords of the family. The eldest grandson of the Duke's mansion, the second son of the Prime Minister's mansion, and the eldest son of the Taifu family. It stands to reason that I, the daughter of an unfavored little talent, cannot reach a lord of this class at all. But who let me have a good brother? The emperor had 9 sons, Shinshu, as the eldest son. His mother's family was strong, and he was so good that the ministers of the DPRK and China had no idea of supporting other princes at all. Because they clearly knew that unless Shinshu died, no prince could take the throne from him. As the favorite sister of the future emperor, some powerful people want to marry me so that they can get on with the big Buddha Shinshu. What's more, I am not bad looking. The legitimate daughter of the Taifu family is talented and beautiful, and she is the first talented woman in Xinjiang. And I, based on my appearance alone, am called Xinjiang Shuangshu with her. When I came of age, most of the children of the family asked the emperor to marry me, but because I was coveting Shinsu at that time, I rejected them all. This one looks good. I took the portrait and looked at it carefully, and Song Shui was so shocked that my jaw was about to drop. Did the princess really let go of the prince? It really can't be true. Seeing that I carefully selected the portrait, Song Shui finally believed it. She glanced at the portrait in my hand and muttered in a low voice, "It's good, but it's still a bit worse than His Highness the Crown Prince." My hand holding the portrait tightened. My thoughts were a little empty. Shinshu was the eldest son of the emperor, and was named prince as soon as he was born, with infinite glory. He also lived up to expectations. His literary and martial strategies were outstanding, his whole body was cultivated and his temperament was extraordinary, and his words and deeds were royal models. The most important thing is that he was born with a good appearance that harmed the country and the people. Apart from rumors of suspected broken sleeves or hidden diseases, there is not a trace of shortcomings. Therefore, Shinsu not only has many women admiring him, but also many men who admire his literary and martial arts. After seeing such a person, it is difficult for other men to catch their eyes. I picked and chose, and I couldn't pick a satisfactory one. I don't think any of them are as good as Shinshu. This is good looking, but a straw bag that spends a lot of time drinking. That one has a good character, but he is old-fashioned, and he has a cold face all day long, just like who owes him money. This one looks and has a good personality, but it is too oily and smooth, which makes people annoyed when they see it. There is also one that is good in all aspects, even Song Shui thinks it is good, but I decided to give it a try. Coinciding with the Lantern Festival, the little lord of the Li family, who thought it was good, invited him to travel together. I agreed. 9 When the lanterns are first lit, the whole street is hung with all kinds of lanterns, a fire tree, and silver flowers, and the shouting and selling are endless, and it is very lively. Miss Shen. The little lord of the Li family held a little rabbit-style lantern, and handed it to me with bent eyes, with shallow dimples on both sides when he smiled. I took it, lowered my eyes and whispered, "Thank you. There are lantern riddles over there, do you want to go see it?" "Go. I don't know what to do anyway." The crowd surged, and in the blink of an eye, the little lord of the Li family and I were separated. Suddenly, my eyes froze. Under the willow tree by the river embankment, a man in silver stopped. The man was tall as a pine, wearing a silver fox mask with intricate patterns on his face, revealing only a pair of eyes soaked in moonlight. Those eyes stared at me through the vast sea of people, deep and dangerous. Shinshu. Even if I could only see my eyes, I could be sure that he was Shinshu. At this moment, the heart that had been silent all night jumped wildly. I pinched the rabbit lantern, hesitating whether to go up and say a few words. When he looked up again, Shinsu was gone. The next moment, my waist tightened, and my whole body was picked up horizontally. The familiar Qingyo plum fragrance surrounded me, and I couldn't help but hug him back, burying my head in his chest, with deep attachment. He carried me out of the crowd and jumped onto the painted boat on the lake. I didn't resist at all during the whole process, I just hugged him tightly. When I got into the boat, he put me down, but his hand still didn't let go of my waist. We looked at each other for a long time, and the man in front of us flashed his eyes, and finally said the first sentence, "Do you know who I am?" I raised my chin, quite proud, of course, not to mention just wearing a mask. Even if the emperor turns to ashes, I will recognize him. Shinshu lowered his eyelashes, and his slender eyelashes trembled a few times, like a black butterfly flapping its wings, very beautiful. "Do you like the little lord of the Li family?" he asked. "It's okay. I can't talk about liking, I can only say that I don't hate it. He's very good, Songshue also thinks he's good, and the Li family's parents are also famous good people, if you marry into his family. It's a good choice. Then am I not good?" Shinshu held my wrist suddenly, and the bright moon on the edge of the sky reflected in his dark eyes and me. "Zhao Juan is going to abandon me, right?" I was stunned. "Brother Huang, you are. My heart is pleased with you." Just 5 words made my ears roar. The whole world is spinning. It took a long time to calm down. I looked into his eyes and his voice trembled a little. "Say it again." Shinshu's slender hand stroked my cheek, and his clear voice hit my ears word by word. He said, "Shin Zhaojuan, I have liked you for a long time." I stood on tiptoe and did not hesitate to imprint his lips. Some things cannot be expressed in words. 10 On the surface of the lake, a pair of mandarin ducks lingered around their necks, and the lake water rippled in circles. On a midsummer night, bouquets of fireworks explode in the night, colorful and colorful. As the night deepened, half of the crowd on the road dispersed, and only the bright white moon was still hanging in mid-air. In the painting boat, I snuggled up in Shinshu's arms. My hair was slightly messy, and the lipstick on my lips was much lighter. Shinshu was also disheveled, and his temperament had changed slightly, and there were some evil people mixed between his warm eyebrows and eyes. "Doesn't the emperor like me too, so why do you want to reject me?" Just the last bit. Shinshu actually pushed me away. Shinshu looked at me, and a low laughter overflowed from his throat. 8 sedan chairs, 3 books and 6 ceremonies have not been given to you yet. How can I wrong you like this? I curled my lips. "I don't care. I only care about you. As long as we are in the same mind, nothing else matters to me." Shinsu laughed dumbly. "I care. Zhao Juan is worthy of the best in this world." Well, this wave of sweet words managed to charm me. I happily asked a question. "Then you just said that you liked me for a long time. How long is it?" Shinshu lifted a strand of my hair, wrapped it around his fingertips, paused when he heard the words, and then smiled and said, "It's been a year." "A year? Then why did I express my feelings to you before, and you rejected me again and again?" He sighed lightly. "At that time, I couldn't get past the hurdle in my heart. You were my sister, just mess around as a brother, I couldn't follow the fool. I thought I could hide this affair forever, just watch you live happily as a brother. But I probably think highly of myself, and as soon as I hear the news that you and the man next to me are going to get married, You can't stand it and come to me." I raised my eyebrows and answered proudly. He nodded, and under the pale moonlight, the man's smile became more and more warm and warm. At this smile, my heart trembled for no reason, and a strange feeling flashed by. Before I could taste it carefully, Shinshu took my hand and put it on the lips and kissed it lightly. "You don't have to worry about our affairs, the emperor brother will clear all obstacles. You can stay in the Haitong Hall to embroider the wedding dress with peace of mind." Okay. 11 Finally, give you a chance to marry me, and you can continue to be the emperor of Qisong. Otherwise, you can only become history with Qisong. In the glorious hall, Feng Qingcheng looked at Shinsu with an arrogant face. Behind her stood 3 men, Zhou Xing'an, Jin Chao, and User. Shinshu was half kneeling on the ground, his silver and white armor was stained with blood, but what was even paler was his face, and there was a bloodstain on his brow bone that extended to the corner of his mouth, and a trace of blood slowly slid down, and the ultimate white and red were shocking. In the face of Feng Qingcheng's threat, he raised his eyelids, said nothing, and only smiled contemptuously. "Feng Qingcheng, Shin Zhaojuan is already dead, do you still want to guard her like jade? Shinshu closed his eyes directly, as if he didn't want to see her. Feng Qingchen was so angry that he said 3 times in a row, I don't know what to do. In that case, then you can go down and make a pair of wild mandarin ducks with her. However, don't want to die so happily. As soon as the picture turned, Shinshu was tied to a pillar, his hands and tendons were broken, and his eyes were bleeding profusely. Whoever shoots more arrows on him, I will be my husband's child. Feng Qingchen said this to the 3 men. The 3 men's eyes lit up instantly, and they all riveted their strength to shoot Shinshu. In the end, the last emperor of Qi was shot dead by a stray arrow, leaving not even a single intact body. No. I woke up suddenly. The body was soaked with cold sweat. Fortunately, it's just. This is not a dream. The thing that claimed to be a system suddenly appeared again. This is what really happened in the previous life. I frowned. What do you mean? As I said at the beginning, I am responsible for repairing the system of the world plot. The plot of this world collapses, the first male protagonist fell in love with the female supporting actor, and finally was killed by the female protagonist and other male protagonists. If you insist on being with him, then Shinshu will still end up in the same end as in his previous life. My heart sank to the bottom. No. Is there any other way? The system said coldly, no. He must be with the heroine, otherwise there will be only one way out. In the afterglow, a touch of bright red appeared. It was a wedding dress that was about to be completed. I picked up the corner of my wedding dress, and my eyes couldn't help but be sour. Wearing a hand-embroidered wedding dress and marrying the love of your heart is an expectation after all, a flower in the mirror, the moon in the water. 12 rumble raindrops the size of beans crackled and smashed, a bolt of lightning struck, and the night suddenly brightened for a moment. I sat at the window, staring blankly at the pouring rain outside. He didn't even notice that there was someone standing behind him. It wasn't until I fell into an embrace with a cold plum fragrance that my thoughts came back. What are you thinking? This is how you get out of your mind. The man's warm lips brushed against my ear. I suppressed the sourness in my heart, pushed Shinshu away, and smiled reluctantly. It's nothing. Shinshu's brows frowned imperceptibly, and he took another step closer. I took 2 steps back, lowered my eyes and said softly, Brother Huang, we are still. Forget it. I realized in hindsight that I seemed to have fallen in love with the little lord of the Li family. I admire the emperor's brother, I don't deny this, but this love is gone, and my heart is no longer the king. From now on, you will still be Zhao Juan's beloved brother. May the brother-sister relationship between you and me last forever. After I finished speaking, the air fell silent. In the stagnant atmosphere, Shinshu suddenly let out a very light smile. Zhao Juan still blames me for being snubbed by you 3 times in the past. It's my fault. It's normal for Zhao Juan to be resentful. No. I don't blame the emperor. My hands under my sleeves were clenched tightly, and my finger bones were slightly white. I am happy with Li Xiaolangjian now, and my father is also very satisfied with him. If nothing else, we will get married smoothly next year. I'm not a good man. Brother Huang should find a real destined person as soon as possible. Zhao Juan is my only lover. Shinshu took my hand, smiling as gentle as a spring breeze. My wife will only be you. Me, it's impossible for us. The person I want to marry now is the little lord of the Li family. He just looked at me indulgently like a child making unreasonable troubles, and opened his mouth in a helpless and doting tone. I can let you make trouble for other things, but this one is not good. Marrying me is a certainty. Even my father can't stop me. When he said this, the smile on Shinshu's lips was a bit treacherous. The weather has been cold recently, and I am susceptible to wind and cold, so it is better for Zhao Juan to stay in the palace. In one sentence, my feet were banned. I can only walk around the begonia hall, I can't get out, and outsiders can't come in. Except for a few personal palace maids, the rest did not listen to my instructions at all. It was also at this time that I was shocked to realize that this begonia hall was full of Shinshu's people. 13. You also saw that I told Shinshu not to like me, but he didn't listen. What can I do? The voice in his head was silent for a moment and said, don't worry, you disappear in front of his eyes first, you always sway in front of him, of course he won't have any extra thoughts on the heroine. I curled my lips. Shinshu liked me in his previous life, and he liked me until he died, and I don't think anything will change in this life. System, the previous life was the previous life, how do you know that he will not change if you don't try it in this life? Besides, don't forget, if he chooses you, he will die without a place to be buried. Don't underestimate the butterfly effect. Sometimes, just a small change may change the trajectory of the whole world. Try it, Shinshu will still have a glimmer of life, but if you don't even try, then he will surely die. Closing his eyes, the picture of Shinshu's heart piercing his heart seemed to be right in front of him. I gasped for breath, and I lay on my back on the bed as if I was exhausted. Okay, I'll find a way to disappear in front of his eyes. 14. The night is sultry. Shinshu stroked the wedding dress that was about to be completed on the table, and his eyes flashed with a fine glimmer. It's so beautiful. He did not hesitate to praise. That's natural, and I don't look at who embroidered it. I snorted softly, very proud. Shinshu smiled without saying a word, gently took me into his arms, and kissed my forehead lightly. After a while he said softly, soon, I will be able to give you an upright wedding. I snuggled up in his arms, looking complicated. More than half a month has passed since the day I rejected Shinshu. The emperor's health became worse and worse, and he was completely bedridden 7 days ago, and the government affairs of the DPRK and China were handed over to Shinshu. He took advantage of this matter to think of a way to make me go to Lingshan Temple in the suburbs to worship Buddha on the grounds of the emperor's blessing. Halfway through, a group of robbers sought money and killed me, and I would stumble off the cliff while fleeing. At that time, there will be no 8th Princess Shen Zhaojuan in the world. Then, I will enter the Eastern Palace as the daughter of a certain minister, and become Shinshu's crown princess. Zhaojuan, do you love me? Shinshu lowered his head against my forehead, his eyes were gentle and intoxicating. I couldn't help but fall into his tenderness and nodded almost subconsciously, love, I love you forever. Shinshu's eyes curved slightly and he smiled with satisfaction. I love you too, only you. After sticking for half an hour, Shinshu left temporarily. As soon as he left, the people hiding in the side hall came out. Tsk tisk, it's so tired and crooked, you guys. Lu Jinyan leaned against the door frame, his eyes full of injuries and loneliness. It really makes me sad. He was tall, with red lips and white teeth, and a beautiful face. Even a eunuch uniform could not hide this person's elegance and arrogance. I didn't have the heart to argue with him, so I just asked, how sure are you that you can succeed? 10 out of 10. His tone was firm, and his eyebrows and eyes were open. Now that the prince is in charge of the country, most of the ministers in the DPRK and China are princelings, and Shinshu's reputation among the people is also good. The right time, place and people, it is no exaggeration to say that this Chisang kingdom is already Shinshu's bag. It was almost impossible for me to leave the palace in this situation. At this time, Lu Jinyan appeared. He didn't know how to sneak into the Haitang Hall, which was full of people in the East Palace, and said he could help me leave the palace. There is no good thing in the world that drops the filling of cakes in the sky, so I asked him why he helped me. When he heard this, he immediately grabbed my hand and said affectionately, the princess may not know, that day the apricot blossoms rained, the princess stood in the rain of flowers and smiled sweetly, and it entered my heart at once. Since then, I have been thinking during the day, thinking at night, thinking about eating, and even sleeping thinking about the princess, thinking about me almost getting lovesick. I don't believe it at all. This person said he loved me, but there was no trace of affection in the depths of his eyes. Even though I knew he had another purpose, I still agreed to leave the palace. On the day I went to Lingshan Temple to offer incense, Lu Jinyan would mix with the group of bandits arranged by Shinshu and take me away. And before that, I need to relax Shinshu's vigilance. Therefore, in the past half-month, I took the initiative to go to Shinshu to admit my mistake, saying that I was the careful thought of my daughter's family, and I didn't believe that he really liked me for a while, so I deliberately made trouble to test him. Shinshu may have believed it, or he may not have believed it. In short, he really didn't detain me anymore. I can go in and out of the palace freely, but there is always a group of guards around me. It is said to protect me, but it actually has a bit of a sense of supervision. 15 On the day I went to Lingshan Temple, Shinshu was going to go with me, but everyone was in the carriage, and a subordinate reported that there were 100,000 urgent matters and went down again. Don't worry, brother, I can do it by myself. Shinshu still frowned, not very relieved. I stepped forward in front of him and said in a voice that only 2 people could hear, I really want to marry the emperor's brother, and the emperor's brother must seize power as soon as possible, so that no one will oppose us. Those ministers are not fools, who would not know that I am Shinjiaojuan with this face. But under absolute power, some people will take the initiative to pretend to be stupid. I persuaded him with all my heart, and Shinshu was willing to let me go. The carriage drove away from Shengjing, and Shinshu's figure became smaller and smaller. This farewell may never see each other again in this life. In the future, Shinshu will marry and have children with other women, and the Qin and Se will be harmonious and love for a lifetime. When I thought of that picture, I bit my handkerchief and burst into tears. So much so that when Lu Jinyan kidnapped me, I cried so much that I almost passed out. The corners of Lu Jinyan's mouth twitched. As for 16 With the prepared winding and road guides, we went all the way south to Jinzhou. In the meantime, there were a few people who were looking for trouble, and they were all beaten by Lu Jinyan to the ground looking for teeth. I exclaimed, "You have 2 strokes." Lu Jinyan raised his chin proudly, "That's necessary, otherwise how can I rob you out of a group of martial arts masters?" Lingshan Temple and his party, I was accompanied by dozens of guards with strong martial arts. Any one is in existence that can fight 100. In this case, Lu Jinyan was able to abduct me unscathed, which is really amazing. On the other side, the palace. In the begonia hall, Shinshu sat on the edge of the bed, holding a piece of letter paper with 5 words written on it. Be careful of Zhou Xing'an. The candlelight jumped in those lacquered pupils, the paper was wrinkled, and the aura around the men became more and more sinister and terrifying. His royal sister also let herself down. A little liar full of lies, he shouldn't believe her. However, he didn't know when there was such a master by her side. Find. Dig 3 feet into the ground and find the princess back. Yes. A row of men in black was ordered to retreat. Shinshu walked to the table, and the bright red wedding dress was still quietly there, waiting for the owner to finish it. The slender fingertips scratched the fabric, and the man's Dan Feng's eyes narrowed slightly, and the bottom of his eyes was filled with a sick dark light. Run? Why did she run? He was obviously restrained enough. To her he has always been gentle, considerate, and patient, and Shinshu thinks that he has pretended to be very good. But this still can't keep her. In that case, there was no need for him to suppress himself. 17 In the blink of an eye, more than half a year of time slipped away from my fingertips. I sat in the noodle shop and listened to the people at the next table tell what had happened in Xinjiang in the past 6 months. Half a year ago, the old emperor died suddenly, and Shinshu inherited the ceremony. Feng Qingcheng, the second lady of the Feng family, expressed her love to the new emperor in public, and shocked the entire Xinjiang with her bold move. There are also bits and small things. I was not interested in the back, so I put down the money and returned to the house I bought in Jinzhou after eating the noodles. Lu Jinyan was busy counting the things for marriage. Yes, marriage. In the past 6 months, Lu Jinyan can be said to have tried his best to please me, but I still can't have feelings for him. First, I have Shinsu in my heart. Second, his flattery is too superficial, as if he is in a hurry to complete some task, which makes people feel sincere. Finally, a month ago, he was depressed and drunk, and accidentally leaked his mouth. He said that he was not actually from this world, and he came here because he was bound to the vicious female supporting strategy system, and he needed to brush my favorability to 100 within 2 years to complete the task. There are 5 levels of favorability. Level 50 is A, 60 is B, 70 is C, 80 is D, 90 is S, 100 is S, but after so long, I only have 45 favorability for him. Just staying in the friend stage, not even an ace. When he woke up, it was irretrievable. Lu Jinyan simply broke the jar and sighed. It's really sad that the first mission failed so completely. I pursed my lips and asked, what happens if you fail? If you fail, you will enter the world of punishment. What punishment? He shrugged. I'm a novice and I don't know now. But I know how to mitigate the punishment. What? You give me a name. I was confused. Lu Jinyan explained. I am a strategy department about love, and whether love can be fulfilled for a long time depends on whether 2 people love each other and have a marriage relationship. Although some people love each other, they may part ways for various reasons, resulting in marrying someone else and having children, and finally regretting it for the rest of their lives. And although some people have a serious name, if there is no love between 2 people, they will not be happy. Therefore, the main criterion for our department's rating is favorability, and the second is to see whether the spouse relationship of the target can be obtained. Although the main quest is a failure, completing the side quest can at least mitigate the punishment. Although I didn't understand it, I nodded, okay. I promise, just take a formality, I will never do anything to you, you. You agreed. Lu Jinyan raised his eyebrows and was surprised. I have prepared a belly full of words before I can persuade you. In this era, women's marriage is very important, don't think about it anymore. My eyes were calm and I smiled faintly. For me, it's almost like getting married to anyone. Besides, it's just a formality, it's not a real marriage. You helped me again. I should agree to it. Lu Jinyan's eyes were full of emotion. Shen Zhaojuan, you are such a good person. I will definitely repay you if I have the opportunity in the future. That's why there is such a thing now. Ahem. Lu Jinyan looked at me and suddenly said, are you nervous? I don't know why, we are a fake marriage, why are we nervous? He scratched his head. Hey, although it's fake, but how can I say that this is also the first time I've married a daughter-in-law, so it's inevitable that I'm a little nervous. Lu Jinyan looked at me for a while, sighed, and muttered in a low voice, hey. So beautiful, if only you were my daughter-in-law. We discussed for a while, finalized the wedding date, and I went back to my bedroom. It rained lightly at night, and the sound of dripping rain was inexplicably comfortable. The wedding date is set for June 16th, and it is now the end of May, and it will not be long before the Dragon Boat Festival. During the Dragon Boat Festival in the palace, the imperial dining room prepared rice dumplings, and few of us, the princes and princesses, the emperor's concubines, did it themselves. Shinshu had to learn all kinds of things when he was a child, and naturally he would not do these things in a humble manner. Until I was 11 years old, I made a fuss about eating the rice dumplings made by Shinshu. Shinshu touched my hair, smiled and agreed, and found someone to teach him that day, and then made it for me. Since then, every Dragon Boat Festival, no matter how busy Shinshu is, he will take time to make a few rice dumplings for me with his own hands. Thinking back to the past, I sighed sadly, saying that I couldn't eat it this year. 18 Yongxin Hall. A man in black half knelt on the ground and bowed his head to report, there is news from the south that the princess has been seen in Jinzhou. In front of the case, the young emperor in a bright yellow dragon robe bent over slightly, and the wolf brush in his hand gradually outlined a slender figure on the scroll. The last stroke fell, and the man hooked the corners of his lips lightly, and the dark burn in his eyes became more and more intense. Well, I know. My subordinate will send someone to the princess. Shinshu interrupted lightly, no need. I will go there myself. After the black-clad secret guard retreated, Shinshu unfolded the picture. The girl in the painting is delicate and moving, lying softly on the table, her cheeks flushed like drunkenness, a pair of big apricot eyes full of blussy water, and her foggy appearance is reminiscent of the Jiangnan region shrouded in smoke and rain. After watching quietly for a while, Shinshu put it away and opened the hidden compartment under the table. In the square hidden compartment, there was a golden chain. He put the scroll in, and the gold chain was taken out and placed on the jade table. Shinshu closed his eyes and imagined the picture of the golden shackles locked on the girl's delicate ankles. Just thinking about it, the corners of his mouth couldn't stop raising the ground. An indescribable trembling pleasure spread throughout the body. Zhao Jun. He put it on the tip of his heart and spoiled the baby for 2 lifetimes. In his past life or in this life, he would never let go of her. Nothing can separate them, neither can death. June 19, 16, suitable for marriage. Get on the flower sedan chair, cross the brazier, and worship heaven and earth. After all the processes were completed, it was already night. I sat on a bed covered with peanuts and longan, drowsy with a red hijab. I don't know how long it took, there was a creak at the door. Someone walked in. I returned to my consciousness, leaned against the bedpost and said tiredly, "What time is it now?" No one answered. I felt a little wrong. "Why don't you speak?" Still no response. I raised my hand to lift the red hijab. But as soon as he raised his hand, he was held by a big and thick hand, and a familiar breath came to his face. The next moment, the red hijab was lifted, and a beautiful and flawless face like jade came into view. "Brother Emperor." The man hummed in a low voice, and his flat tone did not fluctuate. But the more this happened, the more inexplicably I panicked. The man's slightly cool fingertips slowly traced my facial features, and after a long time, he spoke faintly, "Red suits you very well." Without the imaginary anger, disappointment, sadness, he was calm as if nothing had happened. "If something goes wrong, there will be a monster. I'm sorry, Brother Huang, it's my fault for every mistake, don't be angry, it's not good to be angry. No matter what medicine he sells in the gourd, I will admit my mistake first." Shinsu finally showed a smile. "Since you know you have done something wrong, just be punished." Punished? What is the penalty? Before I could ask, the back of my neck suddenly hurt, and my consciousness fell into a coma. When I woke up again, I was glorious. Sit up and a crisp jingle sounds. I stiffened, lifted the quilt, and locked a golden chain at the ankle of my right foot. Isn't this mine? The golden chain I used to imprison Shinshu has been in the box since I decided not to pester him anymore. It was actually found by Shinshu, and now it is still locked to his feet. Hearing the noise, Shinshu came out from behind the screen. He had just finished bathing, his long hair was disheveled, he was wearing only a snow-white undercoat, and he was still wearing a hazy mist. Tears of dissatisfaction flowed down from the corners of his mouth again. I quickly wiped my mouth, coughed symbolically, and made a humble and pitiful look. "I really know it's wrong, it will never be like this again, can you untie it? Please, Brother Emperor." Shinshu sat on the edge of the bed, gently stroked the chains on my feet with his fingers, and then slowly shook his head. "I won't trust you anymore. Zhao Juan, I didn't want to treat you like this. It's you who are so disobedient that you want to leave the Emperor's brother." Shinshu personally tore off his warm mask to reveal the morbid and distorted soul inside. "I love you, I can give you whatever you want, but there is only one, don't leave me. Why can't Zhao Juan satisfy me with this one? In that case, don't blame the Emperor brother for imprisoning you." Shinshu lifted my right leg and leaned over to kiss my ankle with a gold chain. This kiss is not mixed with a trace of eroticism, only full of hot piety to the supreme faith in the heart. It's strange, I don't have many surprises. It seems that deep down, I have always felt that Shinshu should be like this. Well, liked it better. The wedding will be held in 7 days. Shinshu suddenly threw out a sentence. He smiled and said, "I'm going to wrong you for a while before that. After the wedding, I will untie it." I opened my mouth wide, so fast. "You don't think about it anymore." Shinshu stopped talking, just covered me with a thin quilt and got up and left. In the afternoon, the palace people sent a set of wedding dresses. Red as a flame, exquisite and gorgeous. The more I look at it, the more familiar it becomes. Isn't this the one I sewed with my own hands before? It's just that a small part of it was unfinished before, and now the stitching is complete. Is this my imperial brother looking for an embroiderer to embroider? The little palace maid who gave the wedding dress replied respectfully, "It is your majesty who asked the embroiderer to sew it completely by yourself." It's not unbelievable. In my affairs, Shinshu never pretended to be a mun, and if he could solve it by himself, he would never let others touch it, and this has always been the case. I couldn't help but imagine him threading a needle and embroidering a wedding dress with his eyes hanging down. How virtuous! I couldn't help but laugh. You ask your majesty to come over, I have something to tell him. Little palace maid, your majesty has ordered that you will not come to the Haitong palace before the wedding. Sure enough, no matter how much I made trouble for the next 6 days, Shinshu really never appeared again. Until the wedding day. 10 miles of red makeup, the whole country celebrates. I entered the palace as the second daughter of the Weiyong-ho family, who had just been found. Marquis Weiyong had no objection. Who doesn't want to have a queen in their own family, even if it's not their own daughter? It's good to have a name. So everything went well. 20 The red candle swayed, and the eyes were full of red silk. Shinshu, who changed into a red wedding dress, added a bit of a demonic aura that he usually didn't have, which made him more delicate and handsome than a flower. He lifted my hijab again, and I sighed as my eyes met. At this point, I won't hide it from you. I told them everything. Plot, system, and Lu Jinyan. During the whole process, Shinshu did not have a trace of surprise on his face. You. I already knew. I was stunned. How do you know? When did you know? Shinshu's fingers moved slightly, the red waist seal spread out, and he said in a casual tone, "According to the script, my situation should be regarded as a rebirth. I have indeed experienced the plot of the past life you mentioned. After death, I somehow returned to the age of 18. I was a little dizzy, and in the blink of an eye, I found a key point. You were reborn at the age of 18, that is, 5 years ago. The first time I kissed you was 3 years ago, and at that time you were the Shinsu who had already fallen in love with me in my previous life, so you were trying to capture him at that time." Yes. He admitted it simply. If he didn't like it, how could he, a 7-foot man, not push away a weak woman? He just hypocritically didn't want to push away so quickly. The Eastern Palace is heavily guarded, and it is impossible for the outside of the prince's bath to be left unguarded. He just let me in on purpose. And the first time I was drugged, Shinshu had actually noticed that there was medicine inside, but he didn't expose it but drank it as I wanted. One by one, he was using himself as bait to deliberately seduce me. But every time I was about to succeed, I woke up and withdrew, again and again, and I was tortured to the point of going crazy. He is also more determined to have the idea of getting him. And this is exactly what Shinshu wants. You're just. I couldn't think of a suitable word for a long time, and finally just said, "Then why do you pretend?" He also pretended to teach me that even if I am not my own brother and sister, I must avoid suspicion. Shinshu smiled slightly. Things that are too easy to get are often not cherished, and people are the same. You mean, in my previous life, I abandoned you from the beginning? No, we have always been together in our previous lives. Shinshu lowered his eyelashes, emptied his thoughts, and seemed to be thinking about something. In my previous life, I liked him until I died, but that level of liking did not meet his standards. Most people in the world love people at most 9 points, but Shinshu wants that 10. He wants the girl in his heart to love him as madly as he does. He wants to see me sleep and eat for him, he wants me to be full of him, and he wants to see me do all the crazy things for him. Maybe the behavior I did before to get Shinshu was unacceptable to others, but Shinshu liked it very much. The more I do everything, the more happy and satisfied he is, and for him, this is a sign of my love for him. Well, on this point alone, the two of us are really a natural couple. I shook my head to calm down and clear my thoughts. Don't say this yet, since you all know it. You should also know that if you don't get with Feng Qingcheng, you will still die. Shinshu lifted his eyelids and smiled unnecessarily. If I were afraid of death, I would have chosen to be with Feng Qingqing in my previous life. No matter what the situation is, what the end is, even if it goes to endless hell, I will pester you to death and never let go. The moment the words fell, his whole body turned over, and his kiss fell like fire, burning all the way into my heart. The curtains fell, and the candlelight flickered. A quarter of a spring night is worth a fortune, and I spend the spring night in the warmth of the hibiscus tent. The jade furnace ice mat is brocade with mandarin ducks, and the powder melts and sweats on the mountain pillow. The sound of the wheels outside the curtain made me frown and smile in surprise. Shinshu's lips pressed against my earlobes, and he recited shameful words indulgently and indulgently. Everything in the dream becomes a reality. His emotions were so strong that I couldn't resist. In the end, I could only be pulled into the abyss of desire by him and sink into it together. The emotions that had been suppressed for half a year completely burst like a flood at this moment. I completely indulge myself. I love Shinshu, and he loves me, so be it. No matter what plot it is, what the male and female protagonists are, the big deal will die together. The next morning, when I opened my eyes, I saw an enlarged beauty of the prosperous world. Shinshu was still asleep, but the arm around my waist had never been released. As soon as I saw his face, the scenes of yesterday's blushing and heartbeating immediately came to mind. I really didn't expect that people who usually look at people with a pure heart and few desires would be so crazy about that matter. The more I thought about it, the more I blushed, so I simply buried my face in the quilt, and slowly drowsiness and fatigue came up together, and I fell asleep again. The sun outside is not dry, and the breeze is just right. No matter what happens in the future, at least the two hearts are happy at this moment. 21 After marriage, Shinshu fulfilled his promise and untied the chains on my feet, and I completely let myself go, thinking about nothing, and only being sweet with Shinshu all day long, like glue. But the plot continues. 22 Not long after he got married to Shinshu, Feng Qingqing jumped out and asked Shinshu to divorce his wife, and then marry her again with a grander wedding. Shinshu naturally refused. Feng Qingqing turned cold on the spot, and warned him not to regret it. Judging from the posture, he went to gather men and horses to prepare to destroy the Qisong kingdom. To be honest, I don't think Feng Qingqing likes Shinshu much at all. It may be affected by the plot, or it may be purely unattainable. Feng Qingqing is particularly obsessed with Shinshu. 23 6 months later, Feng Qingqing and Zhou Xing'an united with Ruan's Prince Uxil to rebel. The whole country was in an uproar. Feng Qingqing will not be said for now. Zhou Xing'an is from the 3 generations of loyal and virtuous generals of the state. Because he was alone, the reputation of the Zhou family for generations was ruined. General Zhou was so angry that he vomited out a mouthful of blood that day. However, the Zhou family's military talisman had long been handed over to Zhou Xing'an, and General Zhou was powerless to stop it no matter how much he opposed it. After 2 months of fighting, Zhou Xing'an's army was like a bamboo shoot, and it was about to enter Xinjiang, and his deputy commander suddenly rebelled. All the confidential battle maps were leaked, and Shinshu, as the emperor, came to the battlefield in person, and joined forces with the undercover agents ambushed in Zhou Xing'an's army to catch turtles in an urn. Zhou Xing'an was shot dead by random arrows on the spot. User took Feng Qingqing to see that the momentum was not right, and evacuated the battlefield in advance to escape. The Jin dynasty, the richest heir on the mainland, was now greatly injured because he had invested too much money in Zhou Xing'an's army. His half-brother Jin Yi took the opportunity to squeeze him out in one fell swoop, and become the new heir of the Jin family. Later I learned that the young man in plain clothes I met at the gate of the East Palace was Jin Yi. Shinshu had already approached Jin Yi, and the two secretly reached a cooperation. Not only that, 4 years ago, he secretly rebelled against Zhou Xing'an's confidant. Reliving his life, Shinshu made a meticulous plan early, waiting for Feng Qingqing and the others to enter the game. At this point, 2 of Feng Qingqing's 3 backers have been abolished. There is only one Ruan, Usher, left, so there is no need to be afraid. 24 Then I heard that User had married the daughter of a great minister because he was competing for the throne with several other brothers. Feng Qingcheng was not happy, the two quarreled to no avail, she left Ruin in a fit of anger, and now she doesn't know what happened. There is also Lu Jinyan. Shinshu put him in prison at the beginning, but he disappeared out of thin air in the prison that night. Literally disappeared out of thin air, and happened to be bumped into by a jailer, who fainted the jailer on the spot. Now that a few years have passed, he should have gone to another world long ago. And Shinshu's happy and stable days have only passed for 10 years. 10 years later, Shinshu's body began to have various problems. Searching for famous doctors in the world, they are helpless about his illness. Only then did I understand what the system said for the last time 6 years ago. I said that if I don't stay with the heroine, he will die. Even if the heroine and the other male protagonists can't kill him, he will die in other ways. I looked at the person on the couch. In just a few months, the person who was originally like a banished immortal lost his luster, described as withered, and the whole person was unbelievably thin. I tried my best to hold back my tears, but the moment I held his hand, I still couldn't hold back my crying. It's too thin, how can it be so thin? Weak as if it will return with the wind at any time. I choked up while crying and asked, "Do you regret it?" Shinshu just looked at me and didn't say a word, those bloodshot eyes were full of me, and there was only me, just like back then. 25 In the spring of the 12th year, Shinshu left. Because I saw many women who died of dystocia, Shinshu didn't want me to take even the slightest risk, so we didn't have children. He took all the pressure, picked a child in the clan to cultivate and teach, and then made him a prince. He once said that if I die first, he will bury me, and if he dies first, he will definitely take me to be buried. But at that time, Shinshu arranged for me to take the rest of my life. After he left, I still lived well. The new emperor respected me very much, status, power, respect, I had everything the queen mother should have. 26 I don't have the idea of martyrdom, but I have to admit that I miss him so much that the world without him has become a bit boring. A year after Shinshu's death, my health was not very good. Obviously, I eat and sleep on time every day, but I just feel very tired for no reason. I can't be interested in many things. One sunny afternoon, I was lying on the soft couch, basking in the warm sun, dreaming of many things from the past. Most of them are pictures related to Shinshu. After all, he is involved in all my happy memories. In the dream, the corners of my lips were slightly raised, as if I saw Shinshu coming back. He stood there, his arms arched towards me with crooked eyebrows. I lifted my skirt and ran to him with a smile. Extra 1 opens his eyes again, and it is a completely unfamiliar environment. Talking chests, glowing bricks, singing puppets. It's amazing. I opened my mouth, but what I heard was a baby's babbling. Reach out. Well, it's white and smooth, like a shelled egg, but it doesn't look like an adult's arm. Our little Zhaojuan woke up and didn't cry, it's great. A gentle woman picked me up and walked out with a smile. Let's go to the other side to play with your brother Shinshu. Shinsu. When I heard the name again, I stopped breathing. Under the scorching sun, I lay on my mother's shoulder and saw a small figure from a distance. The boy, about 5 or 6 years old, sat on a small bench, holding green rice dumpling leaves in his fleshy little hand, and put the washed glutinous rice in it with his other little hand, with a serious expression. Isn't this a smaller version of Shinshu? How I stretched out my hand, and was about to pounce on it. My mother quickly stabilized my small body and carefully carried me over. As soon as I got closer, I hugged Xiao Shinshu's hand and smeared his face with saliva. He wasn't angry, he wiped the saliva on his face as if he was used to it, touched my little head, and said with a smile, "When my brother wraps the rice dumplings, I will cook them for you to eat." The scorching sun poured down through the branches, and the little boy peeled off the cooked rice dumplings and fed them little by little to the little baby girl in the woman's arms. The gears of fate began to turn again. Extra 2 The man in the gray suit behind the corner saw this scene, turned around and left with satisfaction, his hands crossed on the back of his head, and walked out of the steps that his 6 relatives did not recognize. It's not bad, it's not in vain that I wasted an S-grade rating reward.